All right, this is a video I've wanted to do for a little while. I'm standing here in front of my P38 that I bought back in 2017, and I'm just going to do a little bit of talking about what it's cost me to own and all the adventures I've had with it. I won't get into that because there's way too many, but this is unscripted, except for some bullet points here. And yeah, I'm gonna do a little walk around, and then I'm gonna actually give my opinion on some maintenance and stuff like that as well. It seems like a lot of people have had head gasket problems and whatnot, and I got about 300,000 on this one, and head gaskets are just fine. But this is my second P38. And there's something that happened between this one and the previous one that I had. They have in common, so I would think they probably all have that in common. And I'll get into that in a little bit here. So right now this one is suffering from the dancing door locks, which seems to be a thing. I'm going to get into the doors and start messing around with the regulators and make sure that they're all lubed up with dielectric grease, and make sure the connections are clean. This thing has been over an unimaginable amount of dirt roads and dusty days, mud holes, rivers. It's insane what this thing's been through, and it still goes. Minus the XYZ switch is the reason it's down right now, and has been for quite a while. I just haven't got around to it this summer actually. So my XYZ switch I pulled out, it was full of mud and seized solid. So there you go. I've had a few problems that everybody would get concerning all the off-roading and water and mud holes and river crossings and stuff that this thing's been through. So I can't really blame anything for on that, because my previous vehicles of other makes have had, and people I know who have done all these shenanigans with me have had massive issues with bearings and bushings and whatnot, all related to water and stuff as well. So this one's actually held up quite well, even compared to some other vehicles, newer, 5-6 years old, that are having problems as well. And this one has not had problems, even though it's 25 years old now. So anyway, I'm gonna get moving on this. I bought it in 2017, and the first thing I had to do was replace the air suspension. Now I absolutely planned on doing that, and right from the get-go I knew I was going to lift it and stuff, but I thought I'd drive it. I didn't even actually drive it long enough for the parts for the suspension lift to show up before I had my first airbag fault with the air suspension. So yeah, that I actually for a little while there I thought, maybe I'll try and run it with the air suspension, but yeah, that didn't even last. I probably had the car for maybe 3 weeks before I had my first problems with the air suspension system. So I was quite happy to get rid of that and throw in a 2-inch lift. So this one is running a Strutmaster 2-inch lift on the coils, and also the shocks were Strutmaster. I changed them over to Terra Firma. The one thing that I've been having problems with is the bump stops. I need to extend the bump stops on this thing, because when I smash them into potholes and stuff, it's actually bottoming out the shocks, and they eventually break. So I've been through 3 front shocks now, over since 2017, that is. So not bad, but it's a thing. I've had to replace those shocks 3 times now. So one of my next projects is definitely going to be extending the bump stops so that they don't get smashed anymore. So that was the first problem I had, was the air suspension, which gave out almost immediately when I bought it. Number two, and I bought this with 170,000 kilometers, by the way. So I've had it between 170 and where it is today is around 292,000, I believe. In 2018, about 6 months after I bought the vehicle, we were on a massive trip through Idaho over the BDR route, and this is despite driving it to work and back every day, 50 kilometers every day, and on the weekends commuting 300, 600, 1,200 kilometers on the weekends. Every second weekend, 1,200 kilometers over to a neighboring town to visit family. So there you go. That's a lot of mileage going on this thing, but we know it's the spread between 170 and 290, 292 is the total spread of mileage in the 7 years that I've owned this. Okay, so 6 months in, after that long trip, I ended up with a blown coil pack. Now on this one, thank goodness, I had a Jeep before, and when the coil pack goes on the Jeep, the engine dies completely and you're stranded. On this one, at least you got 4 cylinders on one coil pack and 4 cylinders on the other. So same part, but it's split into 2 with 2 different packs. So I was able to avoid a tow truck. This one has only seen a tow truck twice, and that was in 2023. The fuel pump in 2019 decided to pack it in. I ran the tank right down to almost zero. That's exactly when the fuel pump died. But the fuel pump died at around 215,000. Now, I have had multiple vehicles with Bosch fuel pumps. Every single one of those vehicles, the Bosch fuel pump died somewhere around the early 200,000 mark. So that would be a 4Runner, that would be a Nissan Frontier, and let me see, I won't even get into what else it was, but yeah, I've had a bunch of them blow. And also I've had friends that have lost their fuel pumps around the low 200 mark too, so I didn't see anything weird about that. That's just to be basically to be expected. Unless you run in maybe a late model vehicle with super high mileage, you might escape that. But I think in my experience, if you have anything that's near 10 years old with 220k on it and a Bosch fuel pump, you probably want to think about maybe even preemptively changing that before you're stuck somewhere. Luckily, when that went, I was about 2 blocks from the garage, and a friend of mine came and just towed me to the garage. It was late at night, and yeah, so avoided a tow truck on that one. Let me see here. In 2020, yeah, blew one of those front shocks in 2020. So that's all I've got listed here for repairs in 2020. 2021, the front engine seal started leaking, and actually it was leaking probably for, I don't know, probably since 2018 or something like that. Just slowly, but I ended up actually fixing that in 2021. Also in 2021, my rear caliper seized up on the driver's side, and I didn't even realize it was seized for a long time until one day it started squeaking. So peep, 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 peep when I was driving down through a town with the windows open. I noticed it, and by the time I got to it, it had warped the rear rotor, and also it had blown the seal in the axle. Actually, the seal in the axle lasted probably another couple of years before I changed that out, but I'm pretty sure it was that seal actually went because of the extra heat coming from the stuck caliper. Let me see, caliper overheated, disc, and blew the axle seal. Okay, so in 2022, I have listed here that I did a U-joint. I remember that U-joint was actually kind of vibrating for a really long time, and nobody could figure out what the hell it was. And so I just drove with this kind of like a very subtle shimmy for quite a long time, actually. And finally it got bad enough to figure out what the hell it was, and that was a U-joint. And that could probably be blamed also on river crossings and whatnot, but we'll just call it regular maintenance. Also in 2022, my key fob started giving me some troubles, but I just put a new battery in there and ordered up a new little rubber piece that goes over the buttons, and fixed up that key fob quite nicely, so it's in decent shape now. Now the window actuator bracket, that's what I call it. I'm not sure exactly what it is, but when you try and lift the driver's window up and seal it properly, it starts to go clack, 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 clack. So that is something that I'm going to have to deal with next. It's definitely annoying as heck, but that'll be the next thing I have to do. Now I'm going to talk about off-road related issues here. And this list is going to be long, but I guarantee that if I haven't been driving through creeks and mud holes and all that other stuff, these things would not have happened. Now, I remember there's one of the pulleys I had to change at the front of the engine. The bearing was seized up. It sounded like I had a supercharger under there after I ran through this particularly long mud hole, which I do have on film, and maybe I'll add it at some point. But yeah, when I came out of that mud hole, it was going bzzz, and it just did that right up and for about 1.5 years until one day it seized up. That was a tow truck drive, because my serpentine belt just folded upon itself, and yeah, it was total showstopper on that one. The next thing was let me see here, the starter. Okay, now the starter started sounding a little bit strange after we did a trip out to Ruby Falls in Alberta. We were in these mud holes, lots of them on that trip, and at the end of that trip my starter sounded different. So instead of waiting for that thing to go, I decided to pull it out while it still worked and use it as a spare, and bought a new starter for it, which I still have to this day. Actually, no, I did. I lost that in a sale with another vehicle, which is another story altogether. Okay, another thing I did, this would be also 4x4 related, is I blew the front diff center on it. So in order to not blow the front diff center on one of these things, do not have one of your front wheels in the air and be in 4 low and punch the gas and have the engine running at 5,000 RPM when the front end starts crashing down back on the ground and that wheel is spinning at 5,000 revs at the engine. Yeah, you're going to get, with all that torque in 4 low, it's just going to snap that diff center, and that's what it did. So I replaced it with the 4.6 rear diff center. So it's going to be double the strength with the extra 2 spider gears in it. Let's see what else. Oh, I had to replace the transmission because it was full of water. Despite having my breather hoses in place and checked and everything else, we still managed to have the transmission fill up with water. So that cost me $350 for a new transmission plus installation. Was probably about a $1,500 bill. But there was no tow truck involved because it started with losing reverse gear, and I was able to limp it to a garage over the next few days. After that, I had a pinion seal go, or a pinion bearing go in the front, which was related to a U-joint issue that I had that was probably because the U-joint was all messed up from driving through creeks and rivers and over mud holes and whatever. So the U-joint gave out, and on the transfer case side, I believe it was, and the bloody thing started to helicopter under there and beat the crap out of my new transmission, and also took out the pinion bearing. So I had to replace the pinion bearing and the drive shaft and the two U-joints. So there you go. That's 4x4 stuff, isn't it? Let me see. So all right. So yeah, that was about it here. Front end. The track bar bushings. There's another one I did. So the front end track bar and the rear track bar bushings, or panhard bushings, depending on where you're from. They were punched out at some point there, so I'm not sure. I did one probably in about 2021, and then I think I did the other ones in 2023, if I remember right. So that's another thing, but the rest of the bushings on here, and my previous Jeep that I owned went through all of these suspension bushings in a fraction of the time. I had my Jeep for 2 years, and I did the control arm bushings on the front, and the track bar. I replaced the track bar altogether. I replaced the engine mounts twice, and when I sold it, they were screwed again. What else happened there? Basically, I replaced almost everything in that XJ Jeep that I had before this. The only thing that was solid was the leaf spring bushings. They were fine. But in terms of the rest of the suspension bushings, I replaced them all more than once in 2 years under the same conditions that I drive this vehicle. And these bushings have not been replaced. None of the suspension bushings have been touched. And I did do a steering bush somewhere, tie rod, whatever it was, something there. I did one, and that's it. That's all. It's on the stock bushings. 25 years old with 7 years of hard off-roading, crazy amounts of mileage off-road, and those bushings are still tight. I believe actually there's the engine mount bushing, I think, is starting to go on there, because that's a very distinctive clunk. And I did feel that clunk vibrating through the floorboards at one point, only on an extreme scenario. But yeah, I inspected them. I can't really see much going on there, but I suspect that it's probably a motor mount bushing that's needs to be replaced. So overall, this vehicle is an extremely capable off-roader, in my opinion, and it holds up to a ton of abuse. So not a bad choice considering the purchase price to get into one of these things. It seems to be going up in recent years, but when I got in back in 17, it was pretty much dirt cheap for one with 179,000 kilometers on it. So there you go. Now I've just seen some local ads. People are asking between 5 and 10 for a good clean P38. Whether or not they're getting that, I don't know, but that's what they're asking. And I was quite lucky to have bought one I did, I think. Because yeah, that's significantly more than back in sub 2020. So yeah, anyway, later on I'll get into my theory about the head gaskets. Actually, I did kind of mention that I would do that. I noticed that on my previous P38 that the fuel or the coolant level would drop. So what happens, I think, is it evaporates away. And it seemed to evaporate at a rate of about probably 1 to 200 milliliters per month, I would say. It's pretty fair. So basically, if you just simply probably once a month, but it's kind of inconsistent too. Sometimes it, I guess it's the temperatures or whatever, but sometimes it would take a few weeks to come down a little bit, and then sometimes it would be good for a month. You never have to touch it. It was fine. But this is something I learned a little late with my previous P38, because I actually did not watch the level in the coolant tank, in the expansion tank, and eventually it just went dry. Not dry, but too low, and overheated on the way to work one day. It was going to overheat. It was very close to overheating. It didn't actually overheat. So I caught that in time. And since then, I've been watching it really close. And that's what was going on. It was dropping a little bit every couple of weeks, having to add a little bit. And I got off lucky with that. I never blew a head gasket in that vehicle till the day I sold it, and I don't know what happened after that. But this one does the exact same thing, and I've been topping it up. I always keep coolant in the vehicle because you never know when you open the hood, and I open the hood a lot, like almost every freaking time I drive this thing. I open the hood, check the oil, check the coolant levels, look around under there, and yeah, sure enough, it drops. So I've had it for this many kilometers, this 7 years, and I just keep topping it up a little bit. It never uses more. It always uses that 100 mils per month, something like that. And so I think honestly, most people would not look at that, and they would let it drop. And then if you overheat an all aluminum engine, it's gonna start warping the heads, blowing head gaskets, whatever. So I bet you that's the demise of a lot of these Rover V8s, is probably just because for whatever reason they vent off that coolant a little bit at a time, and people just don't keep up on it, and next thing you know, you overheat it. Once you overheat it, you're gonna have a cascade of problems, domino effect. So I don't know, that's my theory. I could be completely wrong, but I've seen this one last now. It's got almost 300k on it, and as far as I know, unless somebody changed a head gasket before 170, and even if they did, no big, it's yeah. But I didn't see anything on a Carfax about anything like that, but that doesn't really mean anything. This thing was well maintained when I bought it. It came from North Vancouver, and I think the people that owned it before me probably maintained it very well, because it was in pretty mint shape when I bought it. So there you go. There's my theory. So you own a Rover V8, and then actually I went looking the other day at a Disco 1, and popped the hood, checked the coolant, and yeah, tank was empty. Don't know how low that coolant is. Maybe the guy's selling it because it was overheating. Who knows? But I think it's probably a common thing with these Rover V8s, is they just go through a little bit of coolant, and if you're not keeping up on it, one day, boom, there you go, overheat, and then the domino effect starts. So yeah, anyway, this is one of the most reliable vehicles I've had, actually, considering all these problems, which there aren't really over 7 years. Not bad at all, actually. In my opinion, I've had, they're all quite minor issues, except for the ones for like the transmission and filling that up with water. But there is no transmission on this planet that would run with water in it. Even if it's a 22 RE Toyota, it probably wouldn't run with, maybe a manual one would run with water in it for a little while, but even that probably wouldn't work. So there you go. I'm pretty, I think there's a lot of value in this. You can't be poor and run one of these, because when stuff happens to it, yeah, it might not be cheap to fix. But then again, there is wreckers and all sorts of stuff. Like I did replace my transmission for $350 plus the installation. And, you know, you can't complain too much about that. Most people don't think about a $350 transmission when they blow one in a Range Rover. So, you know, that's the reality of a P38 being 25 years old. You just get them from a wrecker, you get the right wrecker, and you can get a good deal on stuff like that. Also, you know, you might be able to find a used Range Rover as a parts vehicle if you've got the space. You know, you can have an entire extra Range Rover sitting there for probably $1,000, or buy a D1, or not a D1, but a D2, some D2 with a blown head gasket or blown engine or something. Might get that cheap. And the axles are virtually the same. The diff centers, there's all kinds of parts in the axles that are exactly the same. The wheels, probably the brakes, I don't know. There's so many parts that the P38 shares with the D2. It's insane. So, you know, yeah, it's might even be worth picking up a D2 as a parts vehicle for a P38. Yeah. So there you go. I'll get into other subjects on this, and we'll take it wheeling too. And well, I've got so much footage of wheeling this thing. I'm going to start putting that together as well. So subscribe to the channel if you guys want to see some P38 stuff. All right, that's it for now. And I'm Mark, by the way. So anyway, maybe see all of you later on sometime. And if you got any questions, put them in the comments, and I'll address them on the next video.
Rover, the rich man's cheap. I don't deserve just a nickname ape. Land Rover, you built the P38, a unicorn the LR heads love to hate. And this is built from the same pieces as your peers. What the cold shoulder after all these years. Solo, I'll give you my all. Solo, I'll give you my all. My Range Rover has twin beam axles. My Range Rover has 4-point coils. Carbon fiber long arm suspension fit for the royals. I will buy and run you despite the law, and I will keep you rolling even though you keep me poor. Oh Pegasus, oh Pegasus, oh Pegasus. You keep me poor, but I'm the last one to be cheap and score.